Today we are going to be making a Lulu frock, but sleeveless. You can get the pattern at lydianaomi.com or Lydia Naomi on Etsy. Let's start with the front and back dress pieces, piece 1 and 2. At the shoulder, mark 1/2 inch or 13 millimeters from the outer edge. Then at the underarm, mark 1.5 inches or 3.8 centimeters down. Then you are going to connect these points with a curve. You can do it freehand, or I like to use my French curve ruler. Do the same for the back piece and cut these off. Now we're going to take our front and back facing pieces and just use our cutoff pieces from the dress to mark the same curves. Because this is the facing and it's going to be on the inside of the garment, we're going to take it in a further 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters. This helps the inside facing not to show on the outside when you're wearing it, and you'll see this later. Now we're going to cut that off, and we now have our pieces ready to cut. After you cut everything, skip sewing the center back seams because we need those open. And we're going to first sew the shoulder seams of the dress together and also the facing. Add 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter wide clear elastic into the shoulder seams of the dress pieces only, and leave the facing without the elastic. Then open up your facing with the right side up and place the dress right side to the facing along the neckline. Then pin together with a clear elastic along the edge. Also, don't take for granted that the elastic is being sewn on the dress side as opposed to the facing side. This is deliberate because it will allow the neckline to lay flatter when you understitch it and wear it. So with a zigzag stitch or on a serger. Sometimes it's difficult to start the seams with a back stitch, so I put a little piece of packing paper underneath and it makes all the difference. When you reach the corners, you might find it easier to do a little tiny snip in the elastic so that it lays flat. And you can see how the stitch is right at the 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance, and there's no ridge of elastic beyond the stitch, and this is how you want it. Now that that seam is sewn up, trim about 1/8 off, and we're going to push the seam allowance towards the facing and understitch on it with a zigzag stitch. Once completed, flip the facing to the inside and just press around the neckline. Now we are going to do the clean finished sleeveless method. To do this, you're going to roll one side of your garment until it's a thin little sausage, and then you're going to wrap the other armhole around the entire rolled up side, right sides together, and clip or pin the armhole together, keeping the inner sausage fabric out of the way while you pin. And then you're going to sew this up. We have to add elastic into this seam as well. Since I'm using a serger and it has a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm using a 1/4 inch elastic. I'm first getting the elastic into the machine, and getting the needle down into it so that the presser foot doesn't push it back while I'm trying to sew. And since the pattern has a 3/8 or 1 centimeter seam, that means I'm going to be cutting off 1/8 of the seam allowance as I sew. Make sure that as you're sewing, you're not stretching the elastic in any way, shape, or form as you're sewing it. It will make a very uncomfortable armhole if you do. Once you've sewn your little sausage and hopefully successfully avoided catching the contents inside your seam, it's time to pull it right side out. And just note, it's best to pull it out from the back of the dress rather than how I'm pulling it out from the front, because now I also have to manually turn out the armhole instead of it happening in one go. You can then press this before moving on to the other side. For the other armhole, we're going to roll the side that's been sewn into the open side, just like we did with the first side, and we're going to wrap the armhole around and clip it right sides together, again keeping the inner sausage of fabric out of the way, and then we're going to sew it in the same way. And now when I pull it out, I'm pulling from the back side of the dress, which will automatically turn out the shoulder strap in one motion. To finish off, we're going to understitch as far as we can from the side seam up to the armhole on both sides. It should end up looking like this. As you can see, you can get a lot further in the back towards the shoulder than the front, and that's just because of the higher neckline in the back. Now the hardest part, if you can call it that, is behind us now, so let's finish up the assembly of the dress. It's time to sew up the back seam, so we're going to pin the center back seam right sides together, matching the notches and the seam from the facing all the way down to the hem, and sew that entire seam. We're going to press each seam to the same side, so to the left when you're looking at them right sides up. This will allow the seams to lay opposite ways when they face each other for a very neat and flat finish. Next, we are going to sew the side seams right sides together from facing to the hem of the dress. Now it's time to add our elastic to finish off our shelf bra. Cut your elastic according to the chart provided in the Read First file, or you can measure on yourself and feel for how tightly you want the elastic. Overlap the ends 3/4 of an inch and sew together. Fold the elastic at this sew line and mark the other side for the center. Find the center front of the shelf bra and line up the marked side of the elastic to the right side of the facing or shelf bra, or rather the side that doesn't have the seams showing. Line up the sewn side at the center back seam and then stretch the elastic to the bra width and pin at each halfway point until you have it evenly pinned. With a zigzag stitch, sew along the edge of the shelf bra, catching the elastic. Next, fold your elastic in and sew along the inner edge to secure. And that is the shelf bra done. Last but not least, we're going to finish the hem. You could take it to the iron and iron up a 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter hem all along to prepare for sewing, or you can take it straight to the machine like me and just roll it up as you go and sew with a zigzag stitch, which is very easy, or you can get a more professional look with a double needle hem. And you can click the link at the top right for a tutorial on how to install and use a double needle for a professional looking hem. Finish by pressing your hem and your dress is completely finished. Please share your make with me on Instagram with hashtag Lulu Frock and tag me at Lydia Naomi Studio. Now let's take a look at the final product.